Let us begin with prayer. Lord of creation, we have much to be thankful for on this day of commencement. We are grateful for family and friends who supported these students through their years of study and personal growth. We're also grateful for the triumphs that each one here has achieved to make it to this day. We're even thankful for the hardships and challenges that have made these students who they are, perhaps even more so than their successes. We ask that you bless our time together. May it be a joyous, beautiful, and memorable occasion for all. Amen.
Good morning and welcome to family, friends, guests, alumni, faculty, the Board of Governors, the Board of Trustees, Mr. Shaw, Mrs. Seibert, and most of all, my peers. I'll get right to the point. I'm not a big believer in ceremony or in ritual. I instead am of the persuasion that truly meaningful events earn their place in one's life based upon their spontaneous and unforeseeable nature. And in keeping with that fact, I intend to keep my remarks today brief and summary in nature so that we can all get out of here and make real memories in the much less rigid and structured celebrations which are sure to follow. Every class has a graduation and a graduation speaker, for that matter, but one would be hard-pressed to find a graduating class at this school or at any other that has camaraderie, independence, and a sense of identity to the degree that we, the Cranbrook Kingswood class of 2015, proudly possess. And indeed, it is these very attributes which make me proud to be able to call myself a member of this class. My job here today is not to convince you of my skill as an orator, nor, mind you, is it to convince you that today is some sort of life-changing event in and of itself. No. Instead, I have the exceedingly difficult task of convincing you all that these past 4 years have been far more extraordinary than you may realize. and that it is the seemingly everyday occurrences which have come to pass over these years that, far more than this ceremony, have been the milestones and accomplishments that at the end of the day have sculpted you into the fine young men that I see before me today. In other words, I'm tasked with standing in front of you all and making the argument that while you've been so keenly focused on simply making it to this day that we call commencement, you may have neglected to notice that you've left a lasting impact on your peers, your mentors, and even this institution. And along the way have changed, grown, and become immeasurably better people yourselves. As I hinted at a moment ago, I believe that we will leave this service today unchanged from the manner in which we entered it. However, the same cannot be said regarding our time at Cranbrook as a whole. Not a single one of us has remained static over the course of the past 4 years, and furthermore, I assert that likewise, none of us has deteriorated in quality or in character. Instead, we have all grown into better versions of our former selves. And along that path, we have each accumulated our own stories and memories of events that have made significant impacts on us, driving us towards self-improvement and success. And well, I cannot speak to the specifics of the vast majority of events which have constituted these changes in others. I would like to take a moment to discuss what has been, in my opinion, the most universally significant occurrence in our class's history, the untimely passing of our dear friend, Caleb Lay. Despite only having graced us with his presence for a little over 1 academic year, I wholeheartedly believe not only that Caleb left a profound impact during his time with us, but furthermore, that in passing, the vacuum that was left in his wake as a result of our sudden loss of a born leader whose ambition and kindness knew no bounds, served to pull us together as a class, day students and boarders alike, to fill the void that he left with support, love, and brotherhood that would make him proud. Before being taken from us, long before his own time, Caleb served as our very first boys class president. And in that role, he set a precedent for leadership, cooperation, and unconditional support. And since his passing, I believe that it is exactly this example which we have followed in order to guide us through our growth from adolescence into adults. And regardless of whether or not you as a student were here to experience the events surrounding Caleb's passing, each and every one of you has felt the impact that he left in life and in death on our graduating class. When we lost Caleb, we gained a newfound appreciation for one another, and in doing so, forged stronger friendships across a broader spectrum of demographics than I have seen at any class at any high school. The pain that we all shared, brought on by the loss that we suffered, was the crucible in which this class was forged, taking on its defining characteristics of unity, resilience, and camaraderie. And admittedly, along the way, we have had our fair share of missteps and fumbles that I know would have put a smile on Caleb's face. And from misprinting our sophomore class year t-shirts to read Cranbrook as opposed to Cranbrook, to failing to even submit a content-appropriate design for this year's Senior Spirit Week t-shirt, to not having more than half of our yearbook pages submitted by the time the official deadline rolled around, we may not be the most organized or productive class that this school has ever seen, but despite that, I believe that we sure as all else carved our legacy in stone as a class that stood by one another in good times and in bad, that solved its internal disagreements peacefully and without need for administrative intervention, that valued solidarity above all else and consequently had no tolerance for subversion, dishonesty, treachery, or breaching of one's own word. And while these past few sentences may seem like unsubstantiated fluff to those of you who are not members of this class, I assure all of you who harbor even a shred of doubt in your minds regarding the veracity of these statements that students have left the upper school voluntarily due to their inability to meet the standard of social and academic excellence, which this class has maintained and demanded over the course of its time here. And while these losses were not many in number, nor are they any cause for celebration, I feel that they are important to note in any discussion of our collective class identity, as they serve to stand behind the assertion that we have been and continue to be a self-sufficient and proactive body of students who display an understanding of social responsibility that is well beyond our years. And so I would like to thank each and every one of the students and teachers with whom I shared this incredible journey, as well as the parents, grandparents, siblings, coaches, and extended family who made our presence here today possible through your love, your support, and your sacrifice. And as many of you know, I was quite the work in progress when I began my freshman year here. In fact, I distinguished myself on the very first day by hitting Mrs. Peacock, the Kingswood Dean of Girls, with a Frisbee at an all-school assembly while she was speaking. And alas, it was not all uphill from there. In fact, a few days later, the night my parents left town, in an attempt to induce a lucid dream, I knocked myself out in a room full of my fellow freshmen, and on impact with the ground, concussed myself and broke one of my 2 front teeth clean in half. And so, in light of these not-so-proud moments and many others, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I have grown leaps and bounds in my time here, and I wholeheartedly believe that all of this improvement in all facets of my life has been the direct result of my being surrounded with the finest young men that this world has to offer, who have inspired me to achieve, to succeed, and to judge myself not relative to others, but relative to my prior self. And thank God that I did learn that last bit, mind you, because while I am considerably smarter, healthier, and more socially adept than I was 4 years ago, I am still a very long way off from being able to do things like comprehend a complex mathematical equation, as well as anyone who's been through Fred's Calc 3 class, from being able to run a mile as fast as anyone on Mr. Miller's cross-country team, or from being able to be the life of the party like certain boarding students that we all know and love. All in all, though, I am immensely grateful to have experienced the unique talents and gifts that each of my classmates has to offer. And I know that you will all stay with me as well as with one another, if not in body, then in spirit, no matter how far apart our travels may take us. Because each of you has set a sterling example in your own way that, believe it or not, the rest of us will retain and use as a guide for our own behavior when we encounter all that awaits us in college and beyond. And with that thought, I conclude my speech. It has been a great honor to have had your audience today, and I can only hope that I have done well to remind you just how much of a blessing it has been to have shared these, the most formative years of our lives, in such fine company. And furthermore, to have left our proud mark as a class whose defining sense of unity, resilience, and camaraderie has set us apart from all who preceded us and all who shall follow in our footsteps. Thank you, and may today's celebrations be as lively and memorable as they are hard-earned and well-deserved. Thank you.
We invite the alumni to join in the singing of the Harrow School Song.
This morning, I have the honor of introducing Charles Krause, Cranbrook class of 1965. Charles entered Cranbrook in the fall of 1963 as a member of Form 5, or, as we would say, in his junior year. At that time in history, any student who lived south of 8 Mile became a boarding student. Since that applied to Charles, he spent his 2 years here fully immersed in the beauty and architecture of this amazing campus, prompting him to consider becoming an architect. However, Charles' experiences at Cranbrook helped to inspire a much different career path, one that would merge his interests in history, foreign affairs, journalism, media, and art. One such experience occurred in the late fall of his junior year. Charles vividly remembers the day he arrived to his English class after lunch, only to find it empty. A fellow student told him that the classes had been canceled because President Kennedy had been assassinated. As he walked back to his room, he recalls wondering how others had learned about it, because boarding students were only allowed to watch television on the weekends. Little did he know that one day he would be the one covering and reporting on some of the world's most important conflicts and events. While at Cranbrook, Charles fine-tuned his communication skills and acumen through his participation in organizations such as Debate, Forum, a group that focused on politics and world affairs, Inter-House Council, a predecessor to our student council, and as a participant in the Foreign Affairs Seminar. An artist at heart, Charles's sketches are prominent in his senior yearbook. He was also a cartoonist for the Crane, still then the school newspaper. Even his art reflected his ability to bring a story to life. The yearbook editors commented on Charles' senior page that his pertinent, skillful cartoons in the Crane have spotlighted school problems and often initiated reform. Yet, of all of his high school experiences, Charles believes that the writing that he was required to do as a Cranbrook student helped to mold him and had a significant effect on his future. After graduating from Cranbrook, Charles attended the University of Pennsylvania, where he became editor-in-chief of the college newspaper and active in student organizations. He chose Princeton's Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs for his graduate degree work. In 1972, he began covering local news for the Washington Post, learning from colleagues like Woodward and Bernstein, who had just broken the Watergate scandal. But Charles's real interest was in foreign correspondence, and in 1978, he got his chance when the Post assigned him to South America, the whole continent. That year, Charles accompanied U.S. Congressman Lee O'Brien to Jonestown in Guyana to investigate reports of abuse and torture at the People's Temple compound led by Reverend Jim Jones. Charles earned worldwide recognition for his coverage of the horrific events that occurred that day: the mass suicide of over 900 cult members, the murder of Congressman Ryan and 4 others, and wounding of 11 more, including Charles. He wrote a best-selling book on this tragedy that was later adapted for a much-watched television miniseries. Jonestown marked the beginning of Charles's long and successful career as a respected foreign correspondent. He didn't only report on world events, he witnessed them: the Sandinista Revolution in Nicaragua, the Malvinas War in the Falklands, the People's Revolution in the Philippines, the Gulf War, the U.S. invasion of Panama, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and so many other significant world events. Charles left the Washington Post to work in broadcast journalism, reporting for CBS News and the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour. In 1996, while working for CBS News, Charles earned an Emmy for his coverage of the 1996 Israeli elections. Other recognitions include the Latin American Studies Association Media Award for his reporting on Central America, the Overseas Press Club Hal Boyle Award for Distinguished Foreign Coverage, and a Pulitzer Prize nomination for his reporting from Jonestown. Over his career, Charles developed a serious interest in the art of protest, propaganda, and political change. As he traveled across the globe from one political hotbed to another, he purchased paintings, posters, drawings, and other forms of art that told important stories and challenged the status quo. In 2011, he founded the Charles Krause Reporting Fine Art Gallery in Washington, D.C., in hopes that the collection will help others to recognize the important role that art plays in shaping our opinions and testing our attitudes about social and political change. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Charles Krause.
To the class of 2015, to parents, families, and friends, Director of Schools Arliss Seibert, Head of the Upper School Charles Shaw, Dean of Faculty Claudia Schuett, the Cranbrook Schools faculty, governors, trustees, alumni, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to have been named Cranbrook's Distinguished Alumnus this year, and for that I'd like to thank the Cranbrook Kingswood Alumni Association and my father, Dr. Gerald Krause, who made it possible for me to attend Cranbrook and who's here today. Thank you, Dad. I'd also like to thank Claudia for that really amazing introduction. The person she described will be a hard act to follow, and my advice would be for him to quit while he's ahead. He won't, and neither will I, because it's really a privilege to be here to address the class of 2015 with whom I've met. I've met some of the boys for dinner, and it was really a fascinating evening for me. And also because Arliss took a big risk inviting me to speak today without ever once asking about or suggesting what I would or should say. It's the kind of risk-taking that I admire, because if I've learned anything these past 50 years, it's that taking risks in life, standing up for what you believe in, thinking outside the box, and following your passions is what differentiates leaders, and sometimes martyrs, from everybody else. It's certainly what differentiates Cranbrook, which seems to have risk-taking in its DNA. Year after year, Cranbrook turns out exceptional boys destined to become leaders in their chosen professions, in science, in the arts, and in government. If past is prologue, and I'm sure it will be, many of you guys will become professional, prominent lawyers, doctors, judges, businessmen. You'll serve on boards, and you'll be pillars of your communities. A couple of you will develop new technologies that will change the way we live, and the way you live, too, because if you choose the right garage, you'll be rich beyond your wildest dreams before most of your classmates finish college. A couple of you may do the unexpected. You'll write a novel, you'll create art, or lead an NGO that will change the way the rest of us see the world. I hope some of you will become public servants, and one of you, like a classmate of mine, may well become a nominee for President of the United States. You may even win, in which case, if I'm still alive, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, that's, okay. Well, anyway, I live not far from the White House, so if you happen to be there, give me a call. What's interesting, though, I think, can you hear what I'm saying? Is that none of us really knows which one of you is going to do what. Looking back 50 years, I doubt that many of my classmates would have guessed that Mitt Romney would almost become President of the United States. And I'm absolutely sure that none of them, including me, would have guessed that I'd be up here today speaking to you. From what I can tell, I'm here to pass on the wisdom of the ages, or of the aged, depending on how you look at it. So let's start at the beginning of my life anyway, and Claudia went through most of it, but I guess what I'd just like to say is that, you know, I came here in the fifth form. It was late, you know, everybody's friendships had already formed. It wasn't the easiest time, but I really did feel privileged to go to Cranbrook because I knew I had some really fine teachers, and I remember Mr. Uselis, my English teacher, Mr. Heavenrich, taught us math, and Mr. Ricketts, who taught American history. They were great, and I didn't really know how great they were until I got to Penn my freshman year. Academically, my freshman year was really a repeat of my senior year at Cranbrook, and I have a feeling that may not have changed. But if it is a fairly easy year for you when you get to college, take advantage of it. Because I think freshman year, even now, isn't so much about learning from books, it's about learning from life. You're going to be meeting and making new friends, you're going to be experimenting. You should be experimenting. You should be opening your mind to new ideas, new challenges. You should be learning who you are and learning how to learn from your mistakes. As Arla said, I thought I was going to be an architect when I left Cranbrook, and I found out that just wasn't for me, but I did find the Daily Pennsylvanian. And it allowed me to use what I had learned at Cranbrook, what I was interested in. It allowed me to write and to influence decisions, first at the university in Philadelphia and later in Washington. It was something I was good at, and by the time I became editor-in-chief, it became my passion. I wanted to be a journalist. And maybe for that reason, because it was something I just really wanted to do, I ended up working for three of the most influential and powerful news organizations in this country, the Washington Post, CBS, and McNeil-Lehrer. I was privileged to become a foreign correspondent, and I covered history as it was being made during the last 2 decades of the 20th century. From Jonestown to the Philippines, the First War in the Gulf, collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War, which is now seems to have started up again, and the invasion of Kosovo. When I worked at the Washington Post, I knew the President of the United States had a copy of the first edition of the paper delivered every night before he went to bed. And I also knew the reason people leaked information to me and others at the Post because it was the only way they could get his attention. It was a really heady time. Newspapers at that, after Watergate, were very powerful, and hopefully we use that power with some integrity and some intelligence. I don't know. You probably heard the phrase or saying, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid." That came from Jonestown, from a story I wrote in 1978 when one of the survivors was describing what had happened. And he said, they started with the babies, they drank the Kool-Aid. It is something that, I don't know whether good or bad, but what it tells you is you should be wary of anyone or anything that tries to make you conform to a set of beliefs in a blind way. And I would urge you to keep that in mind as you go through life. I also learned from the insurgencies and revolutions that I reported on that political unrest and violence result when governments lie to their people, abuse their rights, are viewed as ineffective and corrupt, or get themselves involved in never-ending wars that bleed a country of its men and of its resources. Over the years, in almost every country I reported from, I would seek out artists whose work was in one way or another related to the conflicts I was covering. And what I noticed, especially in Poland and in the Soviet Union, was that they were often at the forefront of demands for social and political change. I also noticed that the kind of artwork I was buying and bringing home was never shown in museums or galleries in the United States, nor at a time when I began to think that our own political system needed some new sources of ideas and inspiration, was much political art being created or shown in Washington or elsewhere in the country. So 4 years ago, I opened an art gallery, which has shown mostly art from Europe, but also some other art now from the United States, which has come about because there finally is a gallery which is willing to show it. And right now, I'm in the midst of planning an art exhibit, a teach-in, and a town meeting in Washington the week of July 4th, which will focus attention on the growing conflicts in the Middle East and the Gulf and South Asia, we hope will prevent an escalation of U.S. military involvement, because it's increasingly evident that our policies in Iraq and Afghanistan have just not worked. In many ways, this latest venture combines the interests that, toward the end of my life, that began when I was here at Cranbrook, as Claudia has mentioned, art, history, political science. And I also feel that because of the privileges that I've had, I have this responsibility to try to do something meaningful for the world and for my country. You leave here today having had the great privilege of a Cranbrook education. I don't want to overburden you with what that means. Each of you will decide for yourselves. But I do want to say that it's been this church, the institution, is an example of enlightened philanthropy that we should all think about. It really is a marvelous gift that one family gave to all of us. So to sum up, take some risks, do what you think is best, think about leaving the world a little better place than you found it. Aim high, good luck, and Godspeed. Thank you.
As is the practice of the school, and at this point in the ceremony, we welcome back our alumni. As I call your name, would you please stand and be recognized? And I ask members in the audience to hold their applause until all names are read. Our distinguished alumnus, Charles Krause, 1965. Cranbrook Educational Community Trustees, Jameson Williams Feliski, 1986, Brock Landry, 1965, Wayne Lyon, 1950, Jeffrey Harris, 1973. School Board of Governors, Philip Hall, 1984, Brian Hermelin, 1983, Scott Strickland, 2001, Matthew Trunsky, 1984. Class of 1975, their 40th reunion, Bill Powell and Julie Harris. Class of 1980, their 35th reunion, Lindsay Akins Hefter. Class of 1954, Marty Goldman. Class of 2004, Alex Heyman. Class of 2013, Alex Rosenberg. Alumni, parents and grandparents of graduates, Scott Romney, 1959. Michael Howard Williams, 1960. David Ravid, 1974. Bruce Akins, 1977. Bill Holmes, 1979. Gary Becker, 1982. Karen Lyon Glover, 1982. Paul Stefanuti, 1982. Peter Samet, 1983. Lori Dom Shanahan, 1984. Tim Shanahan, 1984. Andrea Deneau Gatilia, 1985. Sean O'Leary, 1987. Alumni siblings. There are many alumni who are siblings of graduates here today. May I ask all of our alumni siblings to also please stand. Alumni, faculty, and staff. Audrey Armulian, 1986. Alan Binko, 1979. Jacob Hazard, 1992. Griffin Howell, 2007. Susan Aiken Post, 1978. Susan Strickland Muskovitz, 1997. Alexis Pollock, 1987. Hannah Robinson, 2005. Daryl Taylor, 1970. Honorary alumni, Claudia Schutte, John Winter. At this time, I would like to ask all our alumni who are here to please stand. Thank you. Thank you.
The faculty has discharged its duties to the Director of Schools. We have determined that all of these members of the class of 2015 have met the requirements for graduation. On behalf of the faculty, I recommend to you, Mr. Shaw, the class of 2015 for the awarding of diplomas.
We ask that you please refrain from applause until every member has been recognized, and we wish our boys golf team, represented by 4 seniors who cannot be here today, the very, very best. Gregory Vermeil Akins. Austin Kevin Alger. Aditya M. Angur. Spencer Healy Applebaum. Peter Allen Auger. Patrick James Balsam. Bryce Connor Becker. Jack Anthony Blumberg. Mitchell William Buccalow, diploma cum laude. Jonathan Anthony Campbell. Joseph Piero Cavatillo. Harrison Linfeng Chen, cum laude. Dylan Koldip Diogan, diploma in absentia. Suk Singh Dylan, cum laude. Bennett Thomas Howard Feliski. Joseph Stephen Files, cum laude. Guillaume Olivier Francois. Todd Donald Fridline. Thomas Michael Garcia, cum laude. Grant Lyon Glover, cum laude. Trey Everett Gracing. Sean Gu. Alessandro George Gattilla. James Gordon Hartunian. Simon Martin Heidingsfelder. Maxwell Isaac Hermelin, cum laude. Paul Russell Holmes. Evan Michael Homavec. Kyle Ruben Hordes. Iche Huang, cum laude. Alexander Michael Hubers, cum laude. Thomas Canfield Hunter. Matthew Harrison Jacobs, diploma in absentia. Naveen Karthik, cum laude. Trent Samuel Kane. Chase Milo Kelly. Ji-Hyun Kim, cum laude. Clayton Genki Cramp, cum laude. Michael Jeffrey Langdon. Aaron Yan Lam, law. Zachary David Lebeda. Ilje Lee, cum laude. William Lee. Tepak Lertplakorn, cum laude. Robert S. Lee. Yi Lun Lee. Zhenrong Lin, diploma in absentia. Michael Andrew Lipschutz. James Liu. Kevin Lowe. Stephen Brian Luckoff. Cameron Kirk Maxwell. Connor Michael McHugh. Chance Eugene McDermott. Ryan Scott McGregor. Theodore Hart McCalla Meckie IV. Jonathan Michael Mertz, cum laude. Francis Cristobal Misra, cum laude. Austin Christopher Movinsky, cum laude. Balaji Nelluri. Jacob Thomas Nessel. Sean Patrick O'Leary. Sean Connor O'Malley. Connor Albert Paulus. Charles Joseph Peck. Silhouette Peapot Platonporn. Charles Crow Pisner. Jonathan Michael Ravid, in absentia. Camden James Ritchie. Blake Spencer Rogo. Griffin Rogers Romney. Adam Morgan Rosenberg, cum laude. Ryan Alexander Rosenthal. Zachary Matthew Samet. Brendan James Sayer. Ethan Hellman Scherer. Jared Hellman Scherer. Mason Alexander Schultz in absentia. Michael Andrew Shanahan. Andrew Martin Shanley. Evan Richard Searles, cum laude. Benjamin Franklin Slater. Cooper Thomas Stahl. Giuliano Nicolas Stefanuti. Noah Frank Stevens. Sean Nicholas Telemonte. Matthew David Thalen. Nicholas Peter Theodore. Hien Trin. Eli Joseph Tuckle, cum laude. Mohammed Turfa. Michael Ryan Tursky. John Edward Wagner. John Maximilian War. Ross Joseph War. Carl Wilburn. Griffin Patrick Ray. Ricci Eric C. Cum laude. Yoshiki Samuel Yamamoto. Youngja Michael Yang. Jonah Harris Zeckelman. Ziwen Zhang. Ziyi Zhang. Please join me in congratulating the class of 2015.
We invite the alumni to join the graduates in the singing of our school hymn.
Glory
Eternal God, we thank you once again for this moment. So many have contributed time, resources, sweat, and even tears to help these young men reach this milestone. As many of us are rightly filled with pride about these students' accomplishments, help us not to take this moment for granted. We pray that the students themselves will appreciate Cranbrook and the education they received here, an education that goes beyond the mind and encompasses the whole person. May they look back on these years with profound joy and gratitude. Help us all never to forget what a unique and special place this is, and that we are all already blessed to be associated with such a wonderful school and community. Amen.
We invite all in attendance to rise for the singing of America.
God of heaven and earth, we send these young people out from Cranbrook and ask for your blessing. As they aim high and go forth to serve, help them not to neglect those who are often named as lowly, the poor, the marginalized, and those who are suffering. Give us all discerning eyes and ears to help others, especially those who might totally neglect and fail to notice. Give each student safety, direction, and courage. Help them to use everything they've learned and become over their years here to the very best of their abilities. Bless parents and families as well. Give them peace in this time of transition. Graciously provide students and parents with divine wisdom to navigate the future. Finally, we also ask for a restful and rejuvenating summer for all students, parents, staff, and faculty.